The US office now has somewhat of a cult following, so you're probably familiar with the character of Jim, played by John Krasinski. After The Office finished in 2013, John branched away from comedy and went on to be involved in more dramatic roles, such as Jack Silver in Michael Bay's 13 Hours film about the soldiers of Benghazi. John also directed a film named The Hollars. It's a family-centric comedy which he also starred in. Taking this directorial experience and the family theme, John Krasinski has most recently moved into a genre film, a horror by the name of A Quiet Place. Jordan Peele made a similar transition last year with Get Out, which won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. John has managed to mimic the box office success of Get Out, with A Quiet Place grossing just over $320 million worldwide in a couple of months, which is just more than Get Out did, but it's way more than their $17 million budget. Given that I'd never really gotten into the horror genre before, I wasn't sure if I was actually going to like A Quiet Place. But I've watched this twice in cinemas now, and I'm planning on going again because I just love this film so much. I mentioned Jordan Peele earlier because of the similarities that I see between both Get Out and A Quiet Place. They both try and move away from conventional horror tropes to some extent, and they focus more on psychological fears. But they both go about it in pretty different ways. Get Out focuses on the narrative and the characters to produce this psychological horror. A Quiet Place goes the opposite direction to this, and it uses technique. Sound, or lack of it in this case, makes the audience really connect and engage with the film. It gets us immersed in the world because of how well the concept is established, and because we become immersed, the entire audience is actually paying attention. Unfortunately, that's a bit of a rarity for audiences at the moment, so it's a credit to the film that it actually manages to captivate everybody. The thing I like most about A Quiet Place is how simple everything is. The concept isn't some way out there sci-fi adventure, everything's scaled down. We follow one family in a pretty restricted area, and as is the point of the film here, there's minimal dialogue. It's visual storytelling at its best, and we, as an audience, are treated with intelligence. The film doesn't waste time telling us everything that has happened or is happening. We can figure it out for ourselves from what we're shown on screen rather than what we're directly told. Although this film is a horror, it focuses less on the scariness but more on connection between the characters, which on paper should make this a less scary film, but instead it just pushes us to identify with the characters really naturally. This lets the film add to the horror aspect instead of detracting from it. We're scared for the characters and what's going to happen to them. John Krasinski, the director, star and writer for this film, often describes this in interviews as a film about family first and horror second.
I had just had my second daughter 3 weeks before reading this, so I couldn't have been a better audience member for a movie about a family that relies on each other and can't make sound or they die. I was like, that's what I want to know about, you know what I mean? When I asked to rewrite it and direct it, it was because I had this whole new take on making it a much more specific metaphor or allegory for parenthood.
The emphasis on family and connection is really evident, and the cast really helps sell it. John Krasinski and Emily Blunt working together is a match made in heaven, and I'm really glad that Emily decided to sign on to the project. Obviously, their connection takes very little work, given that they're married, but what really impressed me were the performances from Millicent Simmonds and Noah Jupe, both younger actors. They really are something special, particularly Millicent Simmonds, who has definitively proved now that there's no excuse for hiring able actors to play characters with disabilities. Simmonds helps add this extra layer of truth to the film and really sells the dynamic between herself and John Krasinski's character. I won't be surprised if I see both Millicent Simmonds and Noah Jupe in films in the future. They are rising stars, definitely. The film, I think, really is an inspiration to me. It's the type of thing I dream of making, and interestingly, it actually feels attainable. Although having a budget in the tens of millions, obviously way out of a range I'd be thinking of producing in anytime soon, it seems modest and down to earth. It's a celebration of good filmmaking and visual storytelling. Speaking of the visuals, it's absolutely stunning. The film cleverly uses these visual codes, in particular colour, as a narrative technique, but also as a nice stylistic element. It just looks fantastic. And this is mainly down to Charlotte Bruce Christensen, who is the cinematographer for the film. She's worked on some other beautifully shot films, notably Molly's Game, released just last year, so it's really no surprise how great this film looks. With this film dropping out of cinemas very quickly, I can't urge you enough to go see it on the big screen if it's still playing in a local cinema. The experience of watching this with a professional sound system and a captive audience with you really can't be matched. It'll be really interesting to see how this film performs in Oscar season. I'm hoping that it'll manage to follow in the footsteps of Jordan Peele's Get Out and win an Oscar. If it doesn't win an award for either sound mixing or sound design, something has gone wrong in the world and the Academy need to look at themselves. But I'd love to see this film win an award for either Best Original Screenplay. I doubt it'll win anything for Best Film, but I'm holding my hopes out. I really think it does deserve it. This is my film of 2018 so far, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed my review of A Quiet Place. I'm planning on doing more reviews like this and also branching out into video essays along the way. If that sounds like something you're interested in, feel free to subscribe and follow me on all social media to keep updated. See you next time.